Yeah, so it's been 5 years. We're in our 6th year now. And yeah, kind of like steady growth from a first order of 400 bags, 200 of which went to our Kickstarter contributors. And then with the funds, not necessarily profits, but with the funds from the other 200 bags that we sold, we bought a half shipping container, which holds about 318 bags. We bought a half shipping container, 318 bags. And then from selling those and paying operating costs, I was able to buy another half container. And then with the profits and the sales from that order, I was able to buy a full container, which is 750 bags. And then we've just sort of been ordering full containers and occasionally more than one full container, which was in retrospect a mistake. But yeah, now we're kind of on a steady path of ordering like a container at a time.
So with the shipping containers, from my experience, there's usually a delay, right? It takes time for the shipping containers to get here. So how do you kind of plan and forecast knowing it could be months before that container gets here?
That's something we've definitely learned. I didn't know any of that in the past. It was kind of like make a guess, and I was making like terrible guesses at the beginning, just like thinking we were going to sell so many more than we sold, and then sometimes thinking we weren't going to sell very much and running out. But because we use recycled materials, our like lead time is a little bit longer. So it takes us 60 days to get the materials that we want to make a golf bag, whereas normally you could probably get those materials in like 15 to 30 days. So it takes us about 4 months from the day I place an order to the time it gets to California, which is pretty tricky. I literally have an email open on my desktop right now that I've been working on for embarrassingly 4 days, trying to wrap my head around. Now when we started, we had just one model in two colors, white and black. Now, this year, we're launching two more models and a newer version of a current model. And so I'm ordering material for 3 different models in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 colorways, but really one model with white and black, another model white and black, and then a third model white, black, and then a navy and white. So I have to think like, okay, we're in February. We're past Chinese New Year, which means it's kind of like free game now. I don't have to worry about like a 1 month or a month and a half delay. But I have to think about the reason why this email is taking me so long, particularly, is because I'm forecasting how many bags we're going to sell in each individual sort of category over the next, really, it's like, I would say 6 or 8 months is what I'm looking at. Because if we place an order by March 1st, which is my goal, for all of the material, those bags aren't going to get here until April, May, June, July. And the bags we receive in July are going to have to make up for some loss. Like we sold more bags than we expected in the holiday season in the spring. So we're going to have like a downtime where we're not going to have bags. So I'm thinking like, okay, this many bags are going to be ordered in June, and we don't have enough bags to cover those orders. So the bags that are arriving in July need to make up for those orders that are happening in June. So like sort of restocking with some of those with that order landing in July, and then thinking about August, September, October, what are those sales going to look like? But also realizing that we're going to need bags for holiday as well. So the question is sort of for me, do I order bags for the rest of the whole year? Do I order material for the rest of the whole year and ship half the bags in July and then the other half in late October, which is kind of my goal. But then I have to work with the factory to make sure that's okay. Because typically they're looking at like a company would order, let's say 5,000 bags in 4 different colorways, and they would just order them and they would ship when they ship and they'd receive them, and then they would hold them in a warehouse and then distribute them out, right? But we receive all the bags here to our location in Redondo Beach and then ship them out from here. So I also can't afford to order 4,000 bags. So I can't order that many, and then I also can't hold that many here. So it's very much like, you ask the question like, how do you do it? And I'm like, good question. I'm working on it. But but we're learning. I think in years previous, I placed some pretty big bets on certain media things, like My Golf Spy, for instance, was going to run an article on the bag, like Golf Magazine and these other big publications. And you sort of just make a guess, like, okay, they reach 1 million people in this time period, and that's going to filter down to us getting 10,000 people to our website. And with a 1% conversion rate, we think we'll sell 1,000 bags, right? But, or 100 bags or whatever that number is. And then we take that number and it's like, all right, that article is going to be 100 bags. Then our website's going to do this. And then this other article coming out is going to be 300 bags. And then you place that bet and they could like email you and say, oh, hey, we decided not to run the article. And then you might be sitting on 300 extra bags, which is quite a bit of money. Like our bags are quite a bit more expensive to make than a typical golf bag. Yeah, like roughly 3 times what a normal nylon zippered golf bag costs to manufacture is what a minimal golf bag costs to manufacture. So if I was making it out of just like a standard nylon and using zippers, we could order 3 times as many bags for the price that we're ordering them at. So that kind of makes it a little bit of a challenge as well. And not being a funded company where we're sort of just kind of month to month relying on sales to fund the next order. Yeah, those are some pretty big challenges. That was a really big question. Thanks for asking.
So let's talk about the bag itself, because like you said, this isn't a traditional bag. It's probably not even, most times I think people can think of bags as a commodity. This is not a commodity. This is a high level bag. Like you said, it's 3 times the cost. Talk about what makes it unique and sort of the features. Like you said, magnets, no zippers. What else do you have?
So just going through like the benefits of our bag and what I was trying to do, making a bag was benefit, like, for lack of a better word, the modern golfer. Kind of hate using that term because modern doesn't really say a whole lot, but the features like having a Bluetooth speaker add-on that's very moderately priced for what it is, having a solar charger on the bag so you could charge your phone if you're running that Bluetooth speaker or you're using your phone for GPS, you're burning up battery on the course. So having a solar charger on the bag allows you to charge your phone and just be more active with your phone on the course. And then we have a filming pocket, which is actually built into the bag. So when your bag is on the stand, when the legs are deployed, your bag's on the stand, if you're on the driving range, let's say, you can just slip your phone into that filming pocket and film your swing. So that's another one of those benefits for kind of like the modern player using their phone on the course. And then when it comes to just construction of the bag, I should probably just know this number by now off the top of my head, but considering I probably had a bag a year for all of my competitive and golfing life, I've had over 25 bags. And some of those bags lasted a month, some of them lasted a year, but none of them lasted 2 seasons. And the things that always came up for me, the number one thing that broke on a golf bag, and I think everybody could probably relate to this if you played for a few years, is the zipper. And typically the zipper that breaks on your golf bag is for the pocket that you use the most, which then makes it like very painful. Stuff's falling out in your trunk, or you just can't use that pocket anymore. And it was a very meaningful pocket before. So we've eliminated zippers on our golf bag. Every pocket on the minimal bags is magnetic. And that cost alone is about $30 in magnets. Whereas if we were just using zippers, we could do about 10 or 11 pockets for under $4. So $4 for a traditional golf bag, zippered pockets, and our pockets are $30. So that's one of the big expenses there, but it's also a pain point that I really wanted to solve. So it's kind of like a necessary add-on. And then maybe one other thing that's really important to me, but we found is not yet as important to most of our customers, is that the bags are made from 100% recycled material. And over the last 5 years, we've gotten really good at perfecting that material to make it more durable than a traditional nylon. So it's a recycled sea waste, which is like, think fishing nets. Those are extremely durable. Like that nylon is like a very durable material. They take all of these old fishing nets and they turn them into little pellets. And then those pellets get turned into new fibers. And those fibers are tightly woven into a ripstop material, which is like the most durable weave you can have. And yeah, not only is it like 7 times more tensile and 10 times more tear strength stronger, it's also really nice looking because it has like a nice finish and also pretty impermeable to water. So kind of naturally waterproof as well.
It's great to hear that because I mean, the points you just touched on are all pain points, like you said, for me as the modern golfer, because I use Bluetooth all the time. I use the solar charging component, sounds fantastic. A filming pocket I've never heard of, which is an issue that I've got like a mount that I got to put on. So that takes care of that. The magnets are awesome. Now the 100% recycled sea waste, that's really interesting. How do you find a supplier who is able to provide the sea waste material?
It's getting easier. 5 years ago, it was impossible. I shouldn't say impossible. It's just if I were to, we could do it, right? Like I could go collect a fishing net. I could have it broken down into pellets and then we could have it turned into material. But in order to do that, it would have, when I first asked the question, they said our minimum quantity would be enough material for 1,000 bags in one colorway. So we would have ordered 2,000 bags, which we just couldn't afford at that time. For us at the time, that would have been like $300,000 in cost to order that many bags. So we couldn't do that right at first. We started with GRS material, which recycled GRS, which is just think plastic water bottles, which was much more readily available. A lot of things are made from recycled plastic water bottles. But then about 2 years ago, we found a supplier who was doing recycled sea waste. It's more durable, lasts longer, doesn't fade nearly as much as a typical PU or a plastic would. Think like Nike running shoes in like the 80s. The white sole turns yellow after a year. So perfecting that because half the bags we sell are white. But yeah, the sea waste, I think 900 is the minimum order quantity now. And I can split that up into any colorway I want. And it's getting easier. More companies, especially in Europe, are asking for recycled materials. And so more factories are finding solutions that fit those needs.
One of the other things you offer that's really cool is the hand painting. So you add customization levels to that. Talk about where did that idea come from?
I knew, as I was thinking about, everything was about this new player, like going from the days when I started golfing in the 90s, the coolest thing that I could do, or the coolest like piece of apparel that I could wear would be one of those Titleist hats with the FootJoy logo on the side, because that's what the tour players were wearing. And it kind of gave me this sense of like, I'm a good player if I have one of those hats. And that I think rang true and still rings true for a lot of people. But even for me up until 2013, 14, when I was competing, it gave me a sense of like credibility, or at least I got a little bit of confidence and credibility when I showed up to the course with a Titleist bag, Titleist hat, FootJoy glove, Adidas Tour 360 shoes. I looked the part, right, of a tour player. And that was really important to me back then. And I think most golfers would take the cue from the tour players and say, I want to look like that. I want to play like that. But now, and as of 2018, 2019, 2020, I was starting to see the trend. And I think I'm not unique. A lot of people were seeing the trend of people wanting to have a unique thing, like it wasn't as important for them to fit in as it was for them to express themselves. So I always wanted to have a customizable bag. Unfortunately, because we don't use zippers, the traditional customization process is like out the window, because most people are probably familiar with this, but if you look at your ball pocket on your golf bag, that embroiderable pocket, it actually zips off 360 degrees. So they just most manufacturers or companies will take that ball pocket, give it to an embroiderer, put the country club logo on it for $5, and then they can ship it out, no problem. But since we can't remove that pocket, we can't stitch it. And that's the same for that big side panel pocket. That's also a full zip off panel that you can have embroidered. So that was a big pain point. And I remember our first PGA show, 2020, we were in the inventor section and these club pros were walking by and they're like, oh, these are great. Can we get our logo on it? And I was like, no. And it was really tough for me because I knew I wanted to have that, but I just couldn't see a way. And so I was thinking of like these industrial printers. Have you ever seen those guns that like you can hold against a cardboard box and they'll print out like the serial number? I was like looking into those and calling those manufacturers, and I was just trying to find a way to customize the golf bag. And I was sitting in my office one day and this guy walked in off the street and he was like, do you need a sign on your building? And I was like, absolutely. I've got a mock-up. I've been looking for somebody. Give me a quote. He came back and he was like, I can do it for like $400, I think. So I was like, amazing, because everybody else was like thousands, you know? And again, we're a startup. We didn't have the money for a sign. So he sends me an email with a picture of the mock-up, the building. It looks great. Minimal golf right across the front of the building. He comes back 2 days later. He's standing on a ladder in front of the windows of the shop. And I'm sitting at my computer and I'm just like, I wonder if he could paint on a golf bag. So he comes down from painting the building. I hand him some material and I'm like, hey, do you think you could paint directly on this material? He said, yeah, I think I might be able to. Let me try. So I gave him a couple logos. He took him back to his studio, brought him back like 3 days later, and they were like so perfect. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest blessing I could have asked for. It is a little bit, it's more costly than embroidery. Obviously, we're paying a highly skilled artist to sit there with a tiny paintbrush and very expensive paint and make a perfect, even if it's your initials, they need to look great, right? So it takes time and it costs more money. However, it is the most customizable golf bag you can get at this point. We can paint any panel. We can do, I've got a bag right here. Let me grab it real quick. We had a party one night and it was like a surf and golf party. And we painted this bag. Our creative director painted this bag during the event. So that's like obviously a peace sign in bones, but it's hand painted with a tiny paintbrush. And then she also painted this back panel with this surfer skeleton. And it was just really, really cool. And somebody won this bag that night at the party. And yeah, it's just really cool that these artists are skilled enough to be able to put this art on the bag. And then I think personally, as a golfer, I don't want these huge logos anymore. I don't want like a giant Titleist logo down my back when I'm walking down the golf course. I want the bag to be mine. And so that was kind of early on. One of the things that we put in our manifesto is like, once this bag leaves the warehouse, it's no longer ours, it's the golfers. And we should do our best to help them have this bag reflect who they are. And so that's why I think the customization is really sought after. About 40% of our bags have some sort of customization. And the ones that don't, I think they just haven't learned yet that they can. And in some cases, they're like me and they just don't know what to put on it. So we'll work with them. We've got a creative director. We've got a custom art coordinator who, if you just order custom art on your bag, he'll call you and say, what would you like? And then if you say, well, I'm kind of into surfing and I'm into mountain biking, then you can work together with that coordinator, make some mock-ups, find one you love, get you a quote on what it would cost to paint it on the bag, and then we'll get it done in about 2 weeks. So yeah, it's a pretty cool feature and I think very unique, but it definitely fits that idea of this modern golfer not caring so much about representing a big brand, but more caring about representing themselves on the course.
Yeah, I think the customization component sort of is the summary of all the things you've talked about. It's your indicative of the things that you're thinking about is thinking about me, the golfer, and you've gone and thought through all these things. And you're exactly right. The idea that it's so much about, well, as an instructor yourself, you know, so much of it is here for us. And if I feel like I'm a good player, I mean, I have my lucky shirt and I know I just feel better when I wear my lucky shirt because it fits better. And I'm like, I just feel like a better player. And if I go through my scores, it does impact it. So having these items, especially like you said, a customization that feels more about you, makes you feel better. I would assume that in your history as an instructor, like it's those little things that probably help a ton.
There's two comments on that. One, we had this kid I used to coach back in Missouri, I don't know, a bunch of years ago, ordered a bag the other day, and I saw his name come through, and it was going to Florida. And I was like, Andrew McClure. There can't be another Andrew McClure golfer, but Florida, that doesn't seem right. So I was like, well, yeah, maybe there's another Andrew McClure golfer. So I let it go, and the bag shipped to him. And Alex, who's our head coach here at the club in Redondo, I'll give you a quick turnaround of where we are right now. We're in Redondo Beach, and this is our call it like a indoor golf social club store, warehouse office space. We're pretty close to the beach. You can probably see the palm trees behind me. But so Alex was a student of mine also in Missouri, and he became a teaching pro. And so when he wanted to take that full time, I offered for him to come out to California and be our head teaching pro at the club. So Alex yesterday told me, he's like, hey, Andrew McClure got a bag. And I was like, oh, no way. I thought maybe that was who that was. And I was like, but the address was Florida. And he's like, oh, yeah, he moved to Florida. And Andrew texted Alex, and he was like, yeah, I got my bag, and I shot my best round I've shot in a really long time with it. And he wrote, coincidence? Probably. But like, I think you're right. I think like when you have something that you really, I don't know, like kind of, you feel something for it, you have like a little, there's like some energy there that's like, oh, I picked this out. I chose this. It feels good. It represents me. It's mine. I like it. For sure, your energy, your vibes, your just sort of mood all together is uplifted a little bit by that. So I absolutely think that can have an effect. The second comment is, we have a player, he keeps buying bags. Like every year he buys a new bag, and then he donates his old one to our Trade It Forward program. But he puts these little quotes on his bag. And the one he put on his last bag was, it's a SFG. And you could probably guess, like, stupid effing game. But he put that on there, and I reached out to him, and I was like, that's so funny. For him, when he sees that, it helps him remember it's just a game, right? And so that probably means that he gets stressed out and puts too much pressure on shots. And maybe this little motto that he had painted on his bag helps him remember stuff like that. And I used to do that when I played. I wrote in my yardage book these little things like mantras. So yeah, I think it can. I mean, I'm not going to say that the golf bag is going to make you play better, but to that point of like having something you love and you've chosen and it represents you and it feels good, definitely lifting your mood and being just in general more joyful or happier on the course is absolutely going to make you play better. So, and then, I also, like you alluded to earlier, I thought of these benefits as like, I think of the bag as like equipment. Like, can we make this bag help you play better? Magnets are way easier to use than zippers. I know it's a crazy small amount, but just opening and closing a pocket seamlessly, no zipping, no broken zipper. That's easier. Having the filming pocket to allow you to film your swing when you're practicing on the range, or if you want to film yourself on the course. Traditionally, it's pretty hard to do, but with the bag, if you're walking, it's like takes 2 seconds. So I think of the bag a little bit more as equipment than I do as like just the utility or the function of carrying your clubs. So that's gone into like, a lot of the features and benefits and design of the bag as well.
Such a great point. Yeah, I'm almost thinking like the bag is an addition, like if you have a good caddy, right? It's an extra component that helps out. But the point, like you said, it really is. I mean, for anybody who is a consistent golfer, we all know. I mean, I know specific holes that as soon as I step up there, because I can't hit a fade. This in my Coach Jake, who's he says I could pay you $1 million. You can't hit a fade because it's the way I swing. And so when I see a hole with a draw, there's a dog leg left. I'm like, yay, we're good. Yeah. And so just like you said too, I mean, I have mantras all over the place. Like my latest mantra is always forward. Like forget about the past, always forward. And so all of these things kind of feed into that, and it just makes the game better. Now, one thing that you mentioned there a little bit was about the traded forward program. Can you talk a little bit about that? What is that, and how did you come up with the idea?
Simply, it's just a way for a consumer to help a little bit in a consumer society. It, we're buying stuff we don't need pretty much every day. I think for me, I see it all the time. I was at the PGA show. Probably the biggest example of this is at the PGA show. And I walked in, and this is kind of like a dark take on it. I'm generally, I feel like I work to stay optimistic and positive, but I walked into the PGA show this year and I was just like, oh, this is a landfill worth of trash. It's just so much stuff that, like, yes, it's cool and it's fun and it's techy and it's new and it's exciting. But at the end of the day, this stuff in this building is not going to be useful for any of the length of any of our lifetimes. So, like, we're all buying stuff that's going to be in a landfill before we even leave this earth, and it's going to be in that landfill for hundreds of years past it. And so when I was starting Minimal, I just was like, I don't want to contribute to that. And it was really hard. I was like, maybe I shouldn't even do this. But I kind of like wrestled with this and thought, all right, if we're adding to the need for recycled material by placing these orders, by asking material manufacturers for more of this stuff, we're helping make recycled material more accessible for more brands. So that's helpful. If we sell a minimal golf bag, I'm more proud that this bag is sold than if I saw a Titleist bag being sold, because I know this bag removed 40 plastic water bottles or a fishing net from the ocean. So that's, in my opinion, that's better than if we were selling from native oil-based plastics. But then once this bag is no longer fun for you, or like the new model comes out and you're like, I kind of want to get the new one, I just wanted to find a way to like keep that bag from ending up collecting dust in your garage. And most of the bags that people have, they're not inoperable. They're just like not cool or fun anymore when they buy a new one. And especially now, because people are buying more cool golf bags than ever. So the Trade It Forward program allows a customer to basically, you just check a box. But on our website, you can either buy a Trade It Forward bag or you can buy the regular golf bag. And a Trade It Forward bag is the same bag. It's just that we're going to ship you a return shipping label, and you can stick the bag you were using before you bought the minimal bag. You can stick that bag in the box that we shipped your minimal bag in, slap the label on, and ship it off. And it'll go to right now, all the bags are going to the Southern California Golf Association Junior Foundation. And as of now, I think it's like maybe 14 or 1,500 bags that have been donated by customers to this junior program, which I'm like, it's probably like the coolest thing that we do. If you think about 1,500 bags, average price of a bag's $200. That's more money in contributions than I personally could make. It's more money in contributions than Minimal as a company could make. But because we're sort of crowdsourcing contributions, customers all over the world, or all over the US with our Trade It Forward program, are able to contribute to the development of a junior. And for a kid, like I was a high school kid. My mom had to make a decision, like, should I buy Sam a $200 golf bag, or buy him a series of lessons, or put him in a golf camp, or let him play in a tournament? Or maybe it's just groceries, like for whatever family, it doesn't matter. It's still a decision, no matter how affluent you are. That $200 is either going to this or it's going to that. And I just think it's cool that parents have an option to grab a free bag and then put that $200 toward lessons or clinics or tournaments or groceries or whatever. So it's been a really cool and fulfilling part of the business. I'm super happy to offer it. We give customers a free Bluetooth speaker when they do that. We can't discount the bag as like a typical trade-in would be done, because our net profit margin's about 15 to 20%, depending on when the bags land and when we ship them. So we can't like give a 20% discount. Otherwise we just break even, and then take shipping away, and then we're losing money. And traditionally we're probably negative on Trade It Forward purchases, but I don't really care, because I think it's a really cool program. And again, I think to be in business now, I want to be a business that's thinking about that responsibility that we have to the planet and just try to do things a little bit better.
So you set it up perfectly because I want to finish up with one final question about sort of your future vision of the company, because you don't talk about, I mean, you mentioned the profit margins, but you don't talk about your sales. You don't talk about like, these are my goals financially. And I know you have to in order to keep the brand going, but obviously your focus is basically about me. It's about the golfer. It's about the environment. It's like all these other things, the benefits that you could provide, and which is not, I'm sure is not the case from the majority of the big conglomerates making bags. That's, they're focused on how many more they can sell, and how can they, like you said, almost like the PGA show, can they make it more flashy to get more sales? Your focus is a lot different. It's on your values. It's on how you can accomplish the big picture goals for minimal. So what are those big picture goals that you have right now, knowing that things change so quickly nowadays?
My number one goal when it comes to the product is just perfecting the quality and making it as long lasting as possible and as utility driven as possible. The new models coming out this year, MR2 is dropping in about a month, which if you reach out to us, you can pre-order that. That bag is the most durable bag we've ever made. And I think, I don't want to say it's the most durable bag ever, but it's really freaking durable. Like the material is bulletproof. The stand mechanism is bulletproof. The legs are interchangeable. So if you break a leg, we can replace it. Everything on that bag. The magnets are going to last 500 years. That bag is made to last and it looks really, really good. That's a really good example of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the product have utility for as long as possible, because like I said, it's going to be around as trash, or it's going to be around as utility for hundreds of years. So let's try to keep it in use longer. As far as financially, I live a pretty simple life. We don't have a deck of investors who are looking at the bottom line and saying like, we got to increase margins and we got to reduce costs. And I'm consistently telling the factory, like I literally, my last call with them, I'm still like begging them not to bring up costs, but I'm like, hey, I want to do this on the bag. And they're like, well, that's going to be more expensive. And I'm like, at this point, I don't care, because more expensive to them is like $1 more per bag. Sometimes it's like 25 cents more per bag. But when you tell that to a company who's selling 100,000 carry bags a year, which Titleist, TaylorMade, Callaway, Ping, that's those numbers. You think about $1 per bag, that's $100,000 to them. But for us selling under 5,000 bags, it's $5,000, and it's not going to change my life to make this part cheaper, and if it keeps the bag in use longer, then that's obviously better. So financially, I want to stay alive. I want to keep producing the best possible bags ever. And that's kind of it, man. We don't have an ad budget. We don't do paid media. We don't have, like I just saw a list, 25 best golf bags. I won't say who published it, but they reached out to us. It's a paid thing. If you want to be in it, you have to give them money. We have a standard. We don't pay for publicity or to be in those things. So we're not listed in the 25 best golf bags. And there are clearly bags in that list that are purely there because they paid to be there. So yeah, it's no paid ads, no paid marketing. I don't want to be in the business of trying to, like when somebody uses something, someone you respect uses something, like if I see a surfer who's using a surfboard and they're surfing really well on it, they come in out of the water and they're like, oh, this new board is so good. It's amazing. I've surfed better than I've ever surfed. And then like the guy's like cut and he's like, okay, that thing's trash. I made my $1,000 for doing the little ad. If I bought that board and found out later he got paid to say that, that would suck. Like I'm just I just got like kind of suckered into buying this thing. And so we just don't want to be a part of that. And we don't have to, because again, we're not looking at getting the margins up and the costs down. We're looking at making the best product we possibly can. And we sell it for whatever we have to sell it for, to just be at that 15 to 20% net profit margin to just stay in business and keep the lights on. So Yeah, I guess getting back to the point that for us, it's more about for our whole team, it's more about making the best product for people like you, for people who want to have a great product and represent all the things that they love in their life. And it's probably not for everybody, but that's okay. It's for some people, and we think that that's, we're serving a big enough market that we're comfortable with that.